I'd like to call this meeting to the regular meeting of the County of Napa LAFCO to order, Monday, June 2nd at 2:03. Is there anyone who would like to lead us in the pledge today?
Roll call.
Roll call? Oh, yeah, that's right. Roll call's there and then pledge. Yeah, why do I always want to skip to the pledge? All right, roll call, please.
All right. Vice Chair Painter.
Here.
Commissioner Cottrell.
Here.
Commissioner Doring.
Here.
Commissioner Ramos. Let the record reflect she's not present as of yet. And sitting in will be Commissioner Gallagher. Commissioner Khan. Commissioner Oro. And Chair Leary.
Here.
We have a quorum, and thank you so much.
All right, well, let's stand and Paul. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Moving on to item number 3, we're going to welcome our newest commissioner and have the oath of office for our new commissioner, Paul Doring. Yeah. Go down in front. Yeah, down in front. Yeah. Yes.
I state your name.
I, Paul Jameson Doring,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Thank you. All right. Yes. All right, moving on, item number 4. Brendan or Gary, do you want any disclosures here?
Oh, sure. So we added this, thank you, sorry, that's awfully loud, Chair and Commissioners. We added this to prompt any commissioner who might have a disclosure, and if there are none, it's fine to simply moving. If there are any, now's the time to do it.
Yep. All right, seeing no disclosures, let's moving on to the approval of the agenda. I'll consider a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to just jump in and
All right.
suggest we remove item number 7 from the agenda, since it would be better to wait until the next meeting to handle
All right.
the recognition of service item.
All right, well, making, do we have to call for a vote to approval, or is it yay or nay?
Defer to council.
Yes, you do typically vote to approve the agenda that's before you, so someone could make a motion to approve the agenda without that item on it. You could vote, and then that would be the agenda for today.
So move with the amendment.
Second.
All right. It's been moved in second, so let's call for the vote to remove item 7 and approve the agenda.
Do you want to say aye?
All
Aye.
those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, aye.
You can't vote.
All those
Yeah,
opposed?
can't for Brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all right. I was going to do a roll call. but
Weird
it's all right.
you are.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to public comments. Is there anyone from the public who would like to comment on anything that is not on today's agenda? Seeing no public, I'm assuming there are no comments unless there's something online? Nope. All right. Well, let's move on, to item 8, consent items. Let's know, is there any consent items that'd like to be pulled, or can I get a motion to approve the consent?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as proposed.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
It,
I didn't catch you second. Thank you.
Crazy lady over here.
Joel, yes.
Tina Keller.
All right, it's been moved and second for approval of the consent. Let's do an up and down, yea or nay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Seeing no opposed, so it's been passed. Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to public hearing. And we're moving right along. Any member of the public may address the commission with respect to schedule a public hearing. All right, so move to open the public hearing.
Well, is it my up?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the Commission. This is our one public hearing item on the agenda today, and we're here to consider adopting a final budget, a fee schedule amendment, and a work program for fiscal year 2025-26. Now, keeping this relatively brief, the final budget was prepared with assistance from the ad hoc budget committee, which includes Chair Leary and Vice Chair Painter. The final budget is relatively unchanged from the proposed budget, which was adopted at the Commission's April meeting. The only changes are minor adjustments to a few accounts that resulted in a net increase of $655 to total expenditures, which would be covered by drawing down on agencies' reserves. The highlights of the final budget include operating expenses at $859,655 and revenues at $773,950, resulting in a planned $85,705 deficit, which will be covered by reserves. And reserves do remain quite healthy at approximately 40% of budgeted expenses. And now for Commissioner Doring's benefit, since he was not at the last meeting and didn't get this discussion, LAFCO's budget policy was recently amended to reduce the reserves target. We used to have a higher target that led us to maintain reserves at a much higher amount. We now have a plan to draw down and spend down the reserves over an approximate 5-year period to get to our new target, which is 10% of budgeted expenses. And so other highlights of the final budget include having intergovernmental contributions stay flat, which will reduce the burden on our 6 funding agencies. The proposed fee schedule amendment is actually limited to only updating the Commission's fully burdened hourly rate, which would go up to $196.44 effective July 1st, 2025. And that is based on a formula that takes into consideration all of the Commission's operating overhead expenses. And then also it's based on how much staff time will be used between, it's just me and Stephanie at the moment. And so we have a formula that assumes a certain amount of time spent from each of us on any given proposal. And then finally, the work program outlines key initiatives, including a few significant municipal service reviews and sphere updates. It's essentially a continuation of the current fiscal year work program. We're in the middle of a lot of major work right now, so that is our focus. Notably, the recommended final budget provides the Commission with, and welcome Commissioner Ramos. Do we want to take a moment to reflect for the record how to?
Yes.
I'm turning it over.
Right.
All right.
Let's reflect for the record that Commissioner.
Commissioner Ramos is present, has joined us at 2:12 p.m. And so back to the final budget. So the final budget provides the commission with adequate funding for 3 full-time positions, which includes an executive officer, an assistant executive officer, and a clerk/junior analyst. Related to that is a recent change to state law resulting from Assembly Bill 2561, which requires local agencies to report out the status of job vacancies and retention efforts. A summary of LAFCO's status is provided in the staff report. However, I have to make a correction. The staff report incorrectly states that the assistant EO position is currently vacant, when in fact that vacancy is still pending. It is expected to occur by the end of this month. And once the vacancy is official, a recruitment will immediately commence to bolster staff. And we may not fill the assistant executive officer position. It may be a lower level position. I can guarantee that whatever position and salary is ultimately agreed upon, it will fall within the recommended final budget. So there will not be an increase coming as a surprise. So now, with all of this in mind, staff recommends opening the public hearing, taking public comment, and adopting the 3 items: the final budget, the fee schedule amendment, and the work program, each by separate resolutions, which can be taken under one action, or feel free to take them as 3 separate actions. The Budget Committee and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, opening the public hearing on the budget. Any Commissioner Painter?
I don't see any public comments, but I
Right.
do have a couple of comments, so, I'll put my mic on. Thank you. Thanks for the reminder. So thank you to Commissioner Leary for serving on the Budget Committee with me. I learned a great deal through this. And I am supportive of the drawdown to over a period of several years. We've discussed that. I know you discussed it at the last meeting. I think it helps us meet our targeted reserves. And at the same time, it's not raising the funding from other jurisdictions. So for right now, I see that as a win-win. But I think we do need to think about the future in terms of once we reach that point where we're not drawing down on reserves, because in my mind, the use of reserves are typically for one-time expenses, not necessarily ongoing expenses. So as we think about future budgets, I think we should consider how to either reduce our annual expenses so they're more in line with ongoing revenue, or alternatively, look at how we increase our revenue. But those are just kind of food for thought, just a couple of details, and I know you all looked at the budget. But our 3 primary ongoing sources of funding are the intergovernmental contributions. That's the bulk of where we obtain our revenue. We have service charges and interest. So that number for this budget is $744,000. So if you remove what we put into the category for consulting services, which was $75,000, that leaves $785,000 of what I would consider ongoing expenses. So you can see we're already sort of a little above and out of line with that. So this is just more of a comment to say, as we look to next year and future budgets, we should think about a way to balance that approach so that it's not going to be a surprise to jurisdictions if all of a sudden we look at something else. I think there's going to be an opportunity to look at some other things during this next budget year. So I'm supportive of the budget as proposed. And the last thing that I just want to say is, in looking at this budget, I tend to kind of look at what are other LAFCOs doing and what are other budgets doing, and maybe I'm just slow to the table, but realize that many LAFCOs include districts as a part of their revenue source. We do not. So we do quite a lot of work for districts, sanitation district, water districts. A lot of our MSRs are based on doing work for districts. So I don't think it's a discussion for today, and I'm not asking for any information back, but I think a future topic or something for us to think about as we think about how to reorient our budget, we should talk about what it might mean to include districts either on the board or as a part of our revenue source for future funding. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Painter.
And with that, I would recommend, unless others have comment, I would make a, you
Yes.
have a couple, all right. I'll hold that.
Thank you, Commissioner Painter. Those were really helpful comments, and I agree with your assessment. Again, this is to tee up a future conversation. So I'm also supportive of approving this budget today. I would love to go over what the. I know we already approved the budget adjustment for legal bills, but I wanted to go over what that extra level of activity was. And then I did just want to flag in the work plan, as we talk about what resources we're bringing in and what things we're able to do, we had a lot of items in our work plan that are getting carried over this year. And I just want to make sure I'm looking at the Fire and EMS MSR, County Area Number 4 MSR, Napasan SOI, and I think that St. Helena one too. I think those are all those dates shifted back, and I maybe you could give us a little bit of a narrative about are we planning appropriately? Do we need to build more time in at the outset, or anyway, just a little bit of background on that too would be helpful.
Shall I go ahead and address
Yes, go ahead.
right now? Great. I'll start with, so the current fiscal year, we have the budget adjustment that was on consent. It relates to some higher demand than what we usually experience for legal services. That I'll say mostly related to having legal counsel help draft amendments to the support services agreement between LAFCO and the county. That's ongoing. It's a lot of work. We're actually, I feel like we're close to the finish line on that, but there's one last sticking point there. We need to work with county counsel to work through that. So that's one thing. There's also been an HR issue that I won't go into, which that won't be an issue in future years. So that represented some additional demand. I know there was also, I had counsel prepare various memos on certain issues, one of which was protest proceedings, which is very complex. And there was a rewrite recently how protest proceedings work under state law. So these are things that wouldn't typically be needed in other years. So I do believe what we've budgeted for next fiscal year in legal services is adequate. I don't see the current fiscal year boost being something that'll be sustained. And then on the work program, as far as timelines being pushed back a bit goes, each of these has good reasons why this is happening. Oftentimes it just comes down to you learn as you go, you figure out what you don't know as you are in the thick of it all. So with Napa Sanitation District, we realized we needed more data on groundwater sampling, and we don't have that yet, but we are in the process of trying to get that. We want that before we present a report at LAFCO. Then we have the countywide fire and emergency medical services MSR, which is also seeing a delay. Apparently, the consultant team there was a medical issue with their finance expert, and at this point, I am hopeful but not terribly optimistic we'll have the draft report ready for August. I'm doing my best to keep the consultant moving that one forward. And then we have the City of St. Helena MSR and Sphere update, which that one, City of St. Helena had assigned their assistant city manager to be the project lead. That person then took a job in another city. So the city scrambled to find a new project manager for this major study. So the consultants and I agreed to give the city a bit more time to put their data together and get back to us on that one. So all of these, unfortunately, things have come up and they're slipping a bit, but I'm hopeful that that will be the end of the sliding on all of them.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I'm wondering in future years, because I think those are all, valid reasons, and you have a table here with comments. So maybe next year you could provide a little of that in the, we want to keep it high level, but I think that kind of thing is helpful, particularly because it speaks to all four of our of our studies. And then I think that is it. And just a comment on the other ongoing items that we have. I always think it's helpful to provide some specific goalposts. So, rather than ongoing communication, checked in at the spring quarter or fall quarter, something like that. So we can see, yes, this has been accomplished.
Absolutely. Thank you. I will work on all of this.
Thank you.
Any other comments from commissioners? All right. I'll have a few comments. Yeah, I agree with our Commissioner Painter in terms of balancing our future budgets after the drawdown and what that's going to look like. I was thinking about that today. What are we going to look like? And so looking at different ways to balance that budget, whether it's increasing in the fees we charge or trying to find some places where we can reduce. The work plan, great idea. I was thinking, we meet quarterly, every 3 months, and a lot can change in that time. And would it be, you can update it in the agenda, or maybe just a little verbal update on the work plan, so we know how things are going and how things have changed. So I don't know whether people want it written, or is it just all right to be able to bring it into the meeting, part of the meeting, update on the work plan or changes?
That is a great question, Chair. I would be interested to get the commission's feedback on what your preference would be if there are pertinent updates on the work program or changes. Should those be brought as formal changes to the document itself, or I could just share during my verbal executive officer reports?
Yeah, I think that.
Other commissioners?
Yeah, I think that's the easiest way for us to get information. I think what is helpful is to be able to look back, right? We often look at this just once a year. And so if we get a verbal update, it would be great to have appended some note that says, our EO updated us in June as to this change.
Yes.
And maybe those amendments aren't necessarily requiring a formal vote of approval, but right, we want to keep this as somewhat of a living document, I think.
Yeah, because a lot of those things are out of our control, and so, but it's good to know that there are some slowdowns and things. So we're looking at, say, wait, we said we want to get this done, but it's not done. So yeah, so verbal updates, Commissioner Ramos.
I do think the verbal updates are satisfactory. And I just wanted to really appreciate Commissioner Painter and the comments and work you've done in looking at special districts. That had just simply not dawned on me. And so I really do think that, if we are going to be headed in that direction, I do think it behooves us to assign and perhaps I'm going to take some liberties here and say that the chair could continue to invoke the budget committee to continue to serve and explore this and bring this up as a follow-up item. Certainly, if in fact we do support going in that direction, we're going to need to give plenty of notice, and there's, I'm sure, all sorts of formalities that council will need to be involved in. So I would just really echo that we do that, and we can include in the verbal updates from the executive director the updates from the budget committee as to revenue sources.
Yes, I agree. Great idea, because what would that look like in terms of is it a seat on the commission? And I don't understand how that would happen. Gary?
Yeah, a few comments. I see no issue with this staying with the budget subcommittee if that's the commission's preference. Your policy, though, I believe does automatically disband that committee once this budget process is wrapped up, which might be today. I will look to the executive officer who might have a better recollection of exactly what the policy says. But it's not a standing committee, so it does end pretty soon, if not today. But otherwise, it could stay with that committee, or you could appoint a different one. There is a process in CKH for adding special districts. There's a special district independent selection committee that exists only in CKH with all the chairs of your special districts. Your EO would call an election and then they would vote on that. And if they approve, then they would get a seat on the commission, just like the cities do. And so there would be 7 now instead of 5 up there. So they'd actually get 2 as part of that process. And as part of that, there's compelled funding. So instead of it being 50-50 between the county and the cities, it would be 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 as a default. And then you could also negotiate something different. And some LAFCOs do negotiate different breakdown, but that's the default in state law.
Thank you, Council.
That's why I wanted to just sort of mention this as something that we ought to consider, because like every decision in life, there's pros and cons. So I think, maybe just getting some, at a future meeting, a little more information on what that entails. We are spending money on an MSR for a sanitation district, and that's important work and that's good work. But I do think we need to consider whether or not it would be beneficial to have districts not only as a part of the revenue source, but as a part of the board. And, I would encourage you, look at a few others. Sonoma County is a good example. They have districts as a part of their board, a similar budget to ours in terms of numbers. So it's completely within our authority to consider it. Whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing, I don't know yet, but I think it would be worth some process to figure out what the right next steps may be. So, might be better that it be a separate, committee rather than the budget committee, but I would defer to the chair for how we proceed from here.
Yeah. Right. Well, first I'd like to thank Commissioner Painter. I enjoyed working with you on the budget committee. I also learned a lot. I think we all bring something different to the table, and when I learn something more about my commissioners and what they bring, I'm always surprised and happy that we do have a great commission that has depth, and I really enjoyed working with you. So thank you very much. Now moving on to my preference would be to create another ad hoc to look at this. And if you'd like to serve on it, that would be fine, or if anyone is interested. Gary?
Yes, and if we are creating an official ad hoc, we'll need to bring it back at a future agenda.
Okay, yeah, it would be my recommendation that we can't do it right now, but in the future.
Yeah, certainly direct staff to agendize that
Yeah.
at the next meeting if that's the commission's preference.
Brendan? Can we do that?
Oh, yes. Well,
Yes.
I'll look to council to see if that direction can be given as part of this item now
Or
at the end of the agenda.
okay,
But
all right.
Looks like I got a head nod yes. So,
Yeah, that's
yes.
fine.
All
I'll
right.
bring this back.
Direction noted.
Yes, all right. Now, let's moving on to the, if we're going to approve, I'd like to see this approved in one big, approving all the resolutions and reading every single one and doing that. So can I get a motion?
May
in
I
that?
ask a question on just a couple minor issues?
Yes.
First, before we take the motion, these are just curiosity for me. The item 52-700, that account, the liability insurance account. I'm sure you may have explained this in the past, but I wasn't here to know why it's gone up so substantially, or put it the other way, why it's been so low for so long and now gone up. Just a couple comments on that.
Oh, yes. So that I learned we were supposed to be charged a much higher amount, closer to the $12,000 per year. The county inadvertently was undercharging us for years, and they were very generous, and they're not asking us to pay back what we should have been paying. So the $12,000 is more realistic. The good news is that will drop soon. We have apparently, I think it was 2 claims that will both drop within the next 3 years. I believe it was explained that way to me. So we'll have no claims on record for our agency, and we'll go back down to probably about $1,000 a year.
All right. And the other question, just out of curiosity, is you indicated that the jurisdictional contributions were maintaining the status quo basically there. But the minor changes that are reflected here for the 2025-26 budget are based on changes in population, essentially?
It's correct. Population and general tax revenues. And so that's a formula that is built into how we come up with those individual numbers.
I noticed that most have stayed the same. It looks like the city of St. Helena has dropped down. I mean, it's a relatively small amount of money here, but significant relative to the amount, $3,000. So I was just wondering if that's reflective of our population change, which is going down in our city.
Well, I would believe it would be more tied to the tax revenue generation. And the
okay.
revenues, it's based on state controller's office data,
okay.
which is, I believe, 3 years old. So, so think back 3 years or so to your city's revenue situation, and
All right.
that's what's feeding into this. And also, it could be a function of the other cities and town in Napa County,
Understood.
their changes.
All right.
Well, Chair, if there's no other comments, I would make a motion to adopt the final budget for fiscal year 25-26, amend the schedule of fees and deposits, and adopt the work program for fiscal year 25-26 as presented in the staff report.
All right, do roll call vote.
I'll second.
All right, roll call vote.
Would you mind, Stephanie?
Okay. Vice Chair Painter,
Aye. Yes.
Commissioner Cottrell,
Aye.
Commissioner Doring,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Oh, and Chair, I am so sorry. You were at, and Chair Larry.
Yes.
Well, I'll look to council.
And now that you voted, you can consider it closed. Yeah.
I'm just saying I misplaced I flipped my agenda over somewhere and, you know. All right. Too many pages. All right, here we go. Moving on to action items and that would be action item number 8, unincorporated islands. Is that where we are? No, oh gosh, I flipped up the wrong one. Oh, here we go. Oh, on number 10. Oh, Patrick Road, yes. Yeah, annexation. Let's move on to that and I will locate my agenda.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, may I jump right in?
Mhm.
All right, thank you, Chair. This item involves a proposal submitted by the landowner to annex approximately 2.2 acres of territory into the Napa Sanitation District. The affected territory is located at 1193 Partrick Road, and that is in the city of Napa. And the affected territory also includes the adjacent portion of public right-of-way to ensure a clean, orderly boundary. Current land uses within the affected territory are limited to one single-family residence that currently relies on a private on-site septic system. And the landowner would like to connect that residence plus a future accessory dwelling unit to the district's public sewer service infrastructure. This is what I would consider a relatively cookie-cutter annexation involving a single parcel with limited development potential that has a need for public sewer service, and it would ultimately contribute to the need for housing ever so slightly by facilitating the construction of an ADU that currently isn't buildable based on the septic reserve area requirements and the plans of the landowner. So seems relatively straightforward, and also the annexation is consistent with the statutory factors outlined under Government Code Sections 56668 and 56668.3. Those factors are summarized in Attachment 3 to your staff report. Further, the annexation would be exempt from CEQA. In my opinion, there's nothing that should cause any second guessing about the merits of this boundary change for the Napa Sanitation District. So with all of this in mind, staff recommends approval of the proposed annexation by resolution consistent with Attachment 1. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I had a question about, so it's kind of, there's a long, skinny parcel to the to the east of the proposed annexed parcel. Who owns, is that ownership? And it, I mean, kind of technically creates an island, right? Or a donut hole, if you will. I'm in support of this, but I just wonder, is there, was there outreach to that landowner to be included in this? Or it probably doesn't make sense for the sewer service here.
Right. Great question, Commissioner Cottrell. So this is something that comes up often with these Napa Sanitation District annexations, where you've got a neighboring property that is also outside the district boundary and could pretty easily be added in. And I recall we had reached out. I'm trying to find the information now, but we had reached out, sent letters to all nearby property owners, and invited them to join, but there were no takers. And this is a challenge for our staff. This comes up a lot, where we will send out these invitations to join an annexation and we don't hear anything, and we move forward and we miss an opportunity to close a gap. And then sometimes these property owners come back to us just a few months later and they want to annex, and it would have been great to get them sooner. So I don't know that I'll be able to find the landowner information quickly on this one, but I recall we definitely sent them a notice and there was no follow-up. So whether or not they saw it and knew what it was, hard to say. So that's a struggle for staff. How do we reach?
Yeah, I'm not sure that's a buildable parcel even, so it might not in practical terms make a difference. But thank you. That's helpful to understand a little bit of the process that goes into the outreach.
Any other comments?
I have
Commissioner
a
Painter?
comment, maybe a question. And this parcel is 2 acres, and then with the added right away, it's another 0.2. The way the application was done, it was prior to the update of our general plan. So technically, this is a low density residential, same 0 to 2 units to the acre. But just to clarify, what you said was that they could only add an ADU. My understanding is that if they chose to, they could actually subdivide and build and sell a separate lot, which could be really beneficial. I think that would be terrific. But just so that as before we vote, we all understand that that could potentially be a part of the process. But otherwise, I'm supportive. And then, of course, each lot could have an ADU and a junior ADU.
Any other comments from commissioners? Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right.
Second.
So it's been moved in second. All those in favor say aye, and all those opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. All right. Approved. Let's move on to, I did find my agenda. I was writing on it. I don't know how it just disappeared on me. All right, let's move on to number B, legislative report and proposed proposition on bills. Mhm.
All right, thank you, Chair. This item involves potential positions on legislative bills affecting LAFCOs, and staff is fortunate to have assistance from an ad hoc subcommittee, which we have Commissioners Cottrell and Kahn serving on that committee. And we met recently and reviewed all of the bills that are being tracked, the capital track report that LAFCO provides, and we agreed that we should take two positions. And the first position would be to support Assembly Bill 1156, which in essence supports the Williamson Act program, specifically as it relates to solar use easements. This bill would revise the definition of the term solar use easement to, among other changes. Sorry, my notes are a little disjointed, but it would change the definition of the term solar use easement and appear to give local jurisdictions more flexibility to make wise land use decisions and protect lands that keep lands under the Williamson Act. To be fair, this is there's more detail to this one that staff is not terribly well versed to speak on, but it seems to hit all of the consistencies we're looking for in our local legislative platform to support the Williamson Act and its continuance. We also agreed we want to recommend opposing Senate Bill 777, which would require LAFCOs to identify a local agency to be responsible for the care, maintenance, and embellishment of certain specified cemeteries